Hello and welcome to our Judson University webinar, Learning Online Altogether. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Katie and I'm going to be moderating our webinar today. So today we're doing things a little bit differently. What we're going to do is watch a pre-recorded webinar, which took place just a few months ago, but rest assured that nothing has changed by way of student services here at Judson. We are still working hard to make sure that you are supported as much as possible, regardless of whether you're learning online or learning on campus. So what we'll do is watch the recording during which you can learn a little more about those services. And then after we watch them, we will have a totally live Q&A session where some of our panelists will answer any of the questions you have about learning online, about adult classes, about the support systems you're about to learn about, or even just about Judson University. Speaking of questions, I would like to go ahead and call attention to the bottom of your screen where you can see a Q&A button. If at any time during our webinar you have a question, click on that button and go ahead and type your question in there. At the end of the webinar, we will do our best to answer it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and watch the recording. Perfect. So to begin with, what we'll do is introduce you to your dedicated support team here at Judson. After we do that, we'll talk through how these folks, as well as other key players at the Judson University, will help you with your education. And then after that, we'll spend a few minutes answering any questions you may have about our presentation or about Judson University. So before we get going, I'd like to point out that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. At any time, if you have a question, feel free to pop it in there and one of our panelists will answer it during the Q&A section. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our panelists. On this call, we have Tonya White, a senior enrollment coach based in our Rockford campus. We're also joined with Francisco Villa, a success coach, and Dr. Denise Purvis, who is the assistant professor of clinical mental health counseling at Judson University. Each of these panelists will explain their roles to you during this webinar, but more importantly, they're going to talk about how they can help you at Judson and how they can help you work toward not only your educational goals, but work toward graduating as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and turn the time over to Tonya, who will start by explaining to us what an enrollment coach does and how they can help you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie. So being an enrollment coach has got to be one of my favorite things to do. Honestly, I've been an enrollment coach for the last 10 years. I've been with Judson for the last 5, and I have the distinct privilege to be able to connect with adults who have made that decision. Something has happened in their life or a switch has flipped in their head to where they've said, you know what, I need to go back to school. There is something lacking in my life and an education can help change that. And so, but as adults, there are so many other things going on in our lives. And a lot of times going to school doesn't look like it did back when we graduated from high school. And so as a coach, not only do I get to hear their stories and about that educational history and just the different things that have brought them to why we were talking today, but I also get to help partner with them and to be able to walk alongside with them as they go through the enrollment process. I was thinking about it today, and earning your degree is definitely that. It's earning, right? You are in a marathon. This is not a sprint. And where do you start training for a marathon? You start with your coach. And you spend a lot of time with your coach at the beginning. And you're talking through any challenges, any things that may come up in the meantime, some things that, in a perfect world, this wouldn't be an issue, but we all know our world isn't necessarily perfect. I remember my enrollment coach when I first went back to school. I would call him up on a terrible day, and I'd be crying because I'm a crier. And he would say, so how's your day going? And I'm thinking, jerk, I'm on the phone and I'm crying. What do you mean how my day's going? And he reminded me, your days aren't going to change if you give up now. And that stuck with me for probably at least the last 15 years to be able to say, if you don't stick with this, nothing's going to change. And you're going to, not that my days aren't, not that I'm not going to have a bad day, but I know that this is something that I can have some grit and perseverance to be able to move through. So So you're working with people who have been there, who understand. I'm not saying I know 100% of everybody's situation or I've heard it all, because that would be silly. But to know that you're not alone, and to know that I'm here from the very first conversation all the way through starting your program, including helping with admissions, as well as the financial readiness side of things. One of the great things about Judson is that it's a team. And as you are moving through that marathon, there are opportunities to be able to hand the baton off and have people in other areas of expertise. Katie, I think you might be able to go to the next slide there. Part of the enrollment process is the financial readiness side of things. Probably the two biggest things I talk to with students are time and money. Know that you have a dedicated team of people. Joanne and Jennifer in student accounts, Vinny and Jessica in financial aid, who are there specifically for the adults at Judson to be able to help them through that process. You're going to be known by name and by situation, and they are available to be able to talk through any of the questions that you have. There's a lot of general stuff that I can help with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I know everything or that I can see everything. And even as you get started, it doesn't mean that I go away. It means that as that central coach, as that hub of resources, your questions come up and I send you to whoever the best person is to be able to help you next. So definitely something where going back to school and earning your degree, there is enough challenge in that in itself. The rest of those details don't have to be. And we have people here at Judson to be able to help you with that. And one of those people, I'm going to hand the baton over to Frank. He is one of my favorite people who does an amazing job with his students.
Thank you, Tonya. I appreciate that. Yes, my name is Frank Villa. I am a success coach here at Judson University, and I want to cover a couple slides and give you some great information. First would be, what is a success coach and what do we do? I'm going to be your go-to person. I'm going to support you and offer guidance the entire way, the entire degree program, from the moment you start your first class all the way to graduation. We'll be going through classes that you're going to be doing, materials, books that are required, get you prepared to get you into every class and progress. We'll be providing unique resources to enhance your overall student experience. I believe one of the most important roles as a success coach is to build an organic relationship with my students. That way I can uncover the drive, the passion, and motivation, not just for their professional goals, but also their personal goals as well. And I understand goals can change. Change of hearts can change, as far as even changing your degree program. All these things we'll be discussing diligently, weekly, and we'll have a game plan throughout every single course. Now, this educational journey will have its challenges. It will have its ups. It will have its downs, just like life does, and especially during these unprecedented times in 2020. But rest assured, we will be with you every step of the way. Like Tonya mentioned, we have a great network of team, your coaches, success coach, academic advisor, which I'll touch on in a moment, and other members to help you along the way, all the way to graduation. Now, just to touch on a little bit about my experience and what makes us unique in order to help our students out. I've been with higher ed for the last 14 years. I'm a huge advocate of education. Education has definitely opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for me. I love sharing and also being part of a success story. Now, the Judson team is very unique because the student experience is the cornerstone of our mission. Now, we've been in the trenches. We've been and overcame obstacles to get to graduation. Now, every day we call our students and help our students out to get closer to graduation. We use our expertise, we use our experience, and we use our passion. Now, I'm happy to report I'm blessed and honored to work alongside great counterparts and colleagues in leadership here at Judson University because we put our students first. That is our priority. Now, I didn't have nearly the support that Judson offers when I went to college, and I can assure you a good support team makes a world of difference. Now, more than one occasion, several students have expressed to me the level of support and how awesome that is, how encouraging that is. And that's one of the main reasons they come here. And they see it from the very beginning. Again, touching base with what Tonya mentioned. She gets you from the very beginning. You have a lot of hands on deck. Now, you're not alone in this process, because starting school, although it's very exciting, can be a bit intimidating. But you're not alone, like I mentioned, and we'll help you every step of the way. And it's all about progressing, getting one step closer, and just seeing you evolve as a student. Now, if you don't mind, a few more extra seconds to share a quick story of mine. I had a student about 6 months ago wanting to start a program, and did start a program. She was very excited. She was also nervous at the same time. This was her first educational and college experience. She had a family young, and she put her educational goals on hold. And I get it. Her kids grew up, and when I had a chance to talk to her initially, one statement that she made really stood out, resonated with me. And I put it in quotes. "It's my time now, Frank." And that's something that's powerful to me. And I wrote it down on her file. I bring it up as often as I can. And she was right. This was something that she had been wanting to do for quite some time. Now, I've always told her, like I tell my students and myself, there's never a perfect time to begin school, or any project for sometimes that matter. So we just got to dive in. As long as you know that you have an end goal in mind, we will help you get there. Now, it was a little rocky at first, right? It was a first experience. The first class into the second course, there was some obstacles we had to go through, but that's part of the process. You can't grow without being challenged. So with her grit and determination, we started seeing some real progress. I was diligently talking to her on a weekly matter. We had a game plan, going over resources, going over certain things that she thought she might have needed additional help with. Now she's well off. She's 6 months in, several classes under her belt. She has a GPA above a 3.0. We still talk frequently. It's one of those small stories, right? And they go on and on and on. But that one I wanted to point out, that just recently happened. And it's just being excited. Even though you're nervous, you know this is a positive thing for you. So as a success coach, I love being part of that, part of being your story. I tell my students, this is your story to tell. Own it. This is your education. This is going to leave your legacy, right? When it comes down to it. And it helps motivate other people. Now, we'll go into the next slide, which would be the academic advisor role. The academic advisor role is, they actually are super helpful, super resourceful. They actually built out a roadmap for your graduation. Now, we understand navigating eLearn, or our course system here at Judson, can be a little overwhelming, and you're going to need a little practice to help you navigate and get yourself acclimated with it. And that's where the academic advisor comes in. They will personalize and tailor-made your schedule for you. Now, you will have a sit down with your academic advisor, and this is where I encourage my students to ask away. I'm talking classes, graduation, dates, all that fun stuff. Not to mention transfer credits. We have quite a bit of students with transfer credits from other colleges or institutions, and in my opinion, Judson is pretty generous when it comes down to transfer credits. Who doesn't want to graduate earlier, right? So you'll have a sit down, we'll personalize your schedule for you. You'll get it early in the beginning, your initial stages. You'll be able to see it, print it, have it on your computer, so you can be aware of your academic progress. And once again, going back to the success coach, being able to know what's coming up next, being able to provide, hey, this is the books you need, this is the materials you need, we got to plan accordingly. If it's a vacation, if it's anything that might come up, we can then plan ahead. We can be ahead of the curve, per se, right? Because challenges arise. Sometimes we can avoid them. Sometimes we got to take them head on. And that's fine. That's why your support team is here to help out with that. Now, one of the best news I can offer a student is, hey, you're going to graduate sooner. Academic advisors, as well as a success coach, we work together as a cohesive unit to explore all options to help you graduate or speed up your graduation, right? Besides transfer credits, there's other elements as far as proficiency exams, such as CLEP or PLA. Now, all those things are great, right? If one doesn't want to take them, we already have a built-out plan for you. Now, as far as a detailed schedule, I think it's a great tool to have. That way we can plan accordingly. Now, your academic advisor is always there to take on calls and emails if whatever situation or question concerns you might have about your schedule. If it is going to be a retake, if we do got to maybe switch things around, if it's a specific math class per se that, is better to take at a different time of the year just because, you might have more time and acclimate yourself with it, please let us know. We'll sit down together, we'll brainstorm together, and we'll get the best options for you on the table. So academic advisors are extremely helpful. And once again, we all have a common goal, which is graduation. That is a common goal to help you progress and proceed. We all have individual responsibilities as well coming from the schedule standpoint. So definitely hold on to all that information as far as your success coach contact info, your enrollment, of course, your finance, of course, and your academic advisor. Now, to touch base on the third slide, which would be your career development. This is awesome. I try to bring this up as soon as I can. There's no specific time where you have to do it, of course, but this is something that you will accelerate your success through career preparation. Now, it's always good to sharpen up your tools and have an updated resume, right? That's always great to have. Now, this is a free service for all of our Judson students, alumni. Right now at Judson, when you're in class, you will have relevant skills that you will apply to your career immediately. However, this specific career development helps you put your education into use. Now, like I mentioned, it is free, and we also have a career development coach. Her name is Rachel Hammond. Now, she's awesome. She'll help you kind of brainstorm, right? We're doing more of the academic stuff, passing your classes. This is more preparing yourself to catapult you to your career, that job market. Now, just to mention a few things inside the career development, there is job searching. You can also do interview assistance, which is super cool. I don't know about you guys. Sometimes for interview, I can prepare myself the best I can, but there's always a little nervousness. It doesn't hurt to kind of have an extra pair of eyes just to kind of give you motivation and encouragement. Resume and cover letter building is also there for you. Like I mentioned, it's always good to tweak your resume to be as current as you can. Now, you can also find jobs, internships, if you need it for your specific degree program. Now, Glassdoor has a built-in in there. This is a fantastic way to stay connected, to network with your alumni, your cohorts. And one thing I've noticed that I've been using for quite some time, it's also built into the career development page, is ONET Online. It's fantastic. It's one of those things where you can look up jobs, find the description, salaries, skills. Is that job going to be hot? Is it moving? Is there going to be more positions going to be opening up in the near future? All those things to stay relevant, to stay ahead of the curve can only help you out. This is the best way to market yourself, the best way to discover your strengths. Now, I try to introduce it as early as I can as you move into your program, right? That may be one of your main focuses, is more so of passing your courses. And as you get near the end, as I notice as a trend, we start bringing this more into the light. Now, I do try to bring it up as often as I can because there's a lot to it. And I try to make specific meetings with my students to kind of be like, here, I want to introduce you to what we have to offer. Dive in slowly so you can know what's available. And that way you can go back and retrack and go to those resources. Now, one thing I came across yesterday, which I thought was pretty cool, and I want to share this fun fact. It was kind of surprising to me, but I can see how it can happen. I read that a lot of employers actually only read your resume for like 6 to 7 seconds. That's crazy, right? Only a handful of seconds. So we have to find a way to stand out. And that's what I'm going to be now implementing in my conversation with my students. Be like, hey, we want to stand out. We want to market yourself. Let's take advantage of the career development. It's a great, great program and a great resource. And that's all I have for those slides.
Yeah, we're off to me. I'm Denise Purvis, and I am one of the full-time clinical mental health faculty here for our master's program. And where the telehealth piece comes in for you as a student, as through the end of July, in order to just really support our students through the pandemic, through how difficult it is being a student, getting coursework completed and so forth, is we are offering telehealth counseling. So it offers you a
an opportunity to just get confidential support, tips, ideas, access to resources. And so one of the reasons we really rallied behind this, Judson really truly wants to live to our mission and support you. And through telehealth counseling, that's an option to do that. And so another layer is Judson also offers you as much opportunity as students as possible. So for example, our master's level counseling students are the clinicians that are taking calls. And so they're offered opportunity to continue to learn, support their education for their practicum and internship courses. So our role is to support you and your emotional welfare, and also we very actively find opportunities for our students to serve in the community, which also builds to your resume. And so things like that, your advisors can also help you and direct you to how can you be of service potentially through a program that Judson is already offering and helping to serve your fellow students, and just really trying to have well-rounded students and making sure that we're also meeting your emotional needs, any possible mental health needs. Because I would say for any of us, myself included, things can be stressful, anxiety provoking. And so we just want to make sure that we take care of the whole package for you as a student as you go through our program. And so at any point that you're looking for services like that, you can check the Wellness Center page and find links, phone numbers, resources there, and also connect with your advisors as well at any point to ask questions about the program.
Great, thank you so much. All right, that is the end of our recording. We will go ahead and transition into our live Q&A portion. But before we do, thanks again, Frank and Tonya, for sharing your expertise. Judson really does do so much to help our students, and I know that you both know firsthand how much of an impact that really makes. So again, now we will move into our live Q&A session. Before we do, though, there are a few reminders that I would like to cover. Firstly, the great thing about Judson is that we have classes that start year-round, but there are some coming up soon in just a few short weeks on November 9th. And I'm sure that if you ask Frank or Tonya or anybody else really here on our team, they would all agree that November is a great time to start, because you can start your courses, get your feet wet, get reoriented in college life, and then take a nice break for the holidays. So if you'd like to apply for November classes, or if you've already started applying but you need a little help, or you have a few questions, please call our enrollment team at 888-427-5817. They will be more than happy to answer your questions and get you on the right path. Secondly, our next reminder is that we are hosting another webinar in 2 weeks. This one is called Meet Your Personal Cheerleaders. And during this webinar, you can meet some of the support staff here on our team, but more importantly, hear about how they support you in your college journey and why attending Judson with all of our various support opportunities makes a huge difference in your education. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and move into our Q&A session. I saw a few people who joined a little after we started, which is fantastic. So welcome to our webinar. I would like to remind everyone that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you have a question, go ahead and pop that into that portion, and our panelists will do their best to answer. Today we are joined by Frank and Tonya. Dr. Purvis was not able to join us today, but Frank and Tonya will do their best to answer your questions. And we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like some questions have come in. I'm going to direct this question to Tonya. Can you tell me, how has financial aid changed with COVID-19? I know that's top of mind for everybody. It seems like it's kind of turned the world upside down. So can you tell us, how has financial aid changed, if at all? And are there funds still available, or has that dried up?
That is a great question. I would say that standard federal student aid in and of itself has not changed. There has not been a shortage in federal Pell Grant or federal student loans. I know that students, once they finish their program, some of the repayment plans have been adjusted temporarily through the end of the year. I know that But as far as funding goes, there hasn't really been any sort of significant change or shortage of funding. As always, it's very important that once a FAFSA becomes available, that students complete them right away. So for example, the 2021-2022 financial aid year FAFSA was available as of October 1st. So especially for students who are living in Illinois, there is potential MAP grant available, and that is an earlier deadline than for federal Pell Grant. So to increase the opportunity for additional grant funding, it's important to complete your FAFSAs as soon as they become available. But I would say even with the additional people going back to school and the excitement of their home, and there seems to be some more free time available, that there is still plenty of funding available and opportunities for students to get assistance with going to school.
Great, thank you, Tonya. So just to reiterate, yes, funding is available, but if you're in the middle of applying for Judson, your coaches might seem like a broken record, because we're all going to tell you the same thing, which is it's imperative that you submit your FAFSA as soon as possible so you receive whatever aid is out there available for you. So thanks, Tonya, for lending your expertise. Now I'm going to direct this question to Frank. Frank, this person wants to know if they have to wait until they're close to graduation to get career help, or if that is available to students who are just getting started.
Great question. Like we'll say it in the video, I tried to introduce that portion as soon as I can. They do not have to wait to graduation. They don't have to wait as they near graduation. They can start that ASAP. I try to get them familiarized with all the resources we do have on our eLearn, our learning platform, but I try to introduce it on a variety of different durations of time and introduce them slowly, because I get it. There's a lot on there. There's a lot of resources, but yes, I do encourage them to start early. It's never a bad idea to, again, update your resume, market yourself, right? I know things can change, but nevertheless, if an opportunity comes up and you want like an interview assistance, by all means. But yes, going back to that question, I introduce it early. I encourage students to use that resource early, and they do not have to wait at the end of the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. While I've got you here, I'm going to ask you this next question that just came in. Are classes available on campus right now?
Yes. I know 2020 has been some unprecedented times, a lot of changes, right? But yes, there is classes that are showing. Not every class is running. I know it's a class by class basis, as I tell my students. Obviously, we are, trying protocol, right? Social distancing, that sort of matter. But yes, classes are still running online, of course, but there is courses of the variety of the associates, the bachelors, and the masters that are running at the ground level, at the campus. And I do encourage my students that we specifically look at what classes are running if they want to go into that avenue.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Frank. And just to kind of add on to what Frank has said, to be clear, almost all courses that are taught on ground at Judson are also taught online. And we do our best to ensure that the online experience is just as good as the on-ground experience. So if you don't feel comfortable going to class, or hey, if you just want to take college from your own couch, that is absolutely a great option for you. Now, Frank, I'm going to ask you this one. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but but you're the right guy for this question. Do success coaches see students' grades?
Great question. I do see your grades. I do have access to your GPA. I'll show you where those things are at. I necessarily don't have access to like your assignments per se. I can see when you are active in class, when you participated, when you post. But if you might tell me, hey, Frank, what was my grade for this particular assignment? I may not have access to that per se. But as far as your overall progress, the GPA as a term, or your cumulative GPA, or your previous grades of your other class, I definitely have access to that. I definitely show you where they're at. It's all easily accessible via your My Judson platform. But yes, it's something I always give kudos on whenever I get a chance, right? Or even talk about opportunities just in case if a grade is low or the GPA is on the lower end, kind of planning for the future, staying ahead of the curve, making sure that we meet our benchmarks per se. But yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. Now you get a break. I'm going to go to Tonya for this one because someone just asked, how many transfer credit hours do you accept from another college?
Great question. So it depends upon the major. For the bachelor's programs, it's essentially made up of 3 main sections: general education, electives, and then the courses in the major to get to your minimum of 120 credits for a bachelor's. So depending upon the program, Judson will accept between 71 to 73 transfer credits, provided that they fulfill the general education and elective categories. Students may go over the 120 credits for degree completion because they are required to complete the between 47 to 49 required courses in the major to be able to say that they have their bachelor's degree from Judson. So all great information that the academic advisor will go into in detail at that advising appointment once a student has been officially admitted. And things that Judson will look at as far as transferability requirements is the accreditation of the school to make sure that the course was a 100 level or higher. So remedial classes unfortunately don't count, and that a student received a C or higher in the class.
Okay, thank you, Tonya. Great information. So just to add to that, Judson does participate in an articulation initiative with lots and lots of different colleges around the Elgin area. So if you've gone to a community college nearby, that community college may actually participate in the initiative. So we really strongly encourage you to call a coach so that they can review that and put you in touch with the right people to make sure that we accept as many credits as possible. So with that said, I think that's about all the time we have today for questions. Thank you again for everybody who's joined. Thanks again, Frank and Tonya, for your time today. If you'd like to speak to Frank or Tonya, certainly give them a call at 888-427-5817. Someone on our enrollment team can help you help answer all of your questions that you have about starting here at Judson. And again, the next webinar is on October 28th at 5:30 p.m. So same time, same place, and the link to register for the webinar has been added to the chat of this Zoom call. So we will leave it up for a couple more minutes so you can go ahead and click on that link and register now. But other than that, thanks again for joining, and we hope you have a nice, safe evening. And we'll talk to you next time.